Hey, what's up, guys? Thank you for joining me today. My name is Dr. Tom LaHue, and I want to welcome you to my channel. And we're going to be talking about an introduction to Enneagram types 7, 8, and 9. And I want to thank you for clicking on this video, and I hope it's helpful to you if you are one of those types or you live with one of those types. My goal is to help you understand more about yourself or the people that are in your life. In the description below is a link to my website, tomlahue.com. And there's information on my website about booking coaching appointments. If I can help you in any way, please feel free to book one of those appointments. I know I'm probably a couple weeks out, but I'd love to hear from you. And also, we are offering now a certificate program in Enneagram coaching. So if you want to do what I do with people and help use the Enneagram to help people better their lives and help their relationships, help them find their type and understand what health looks like and balance looks like, then I'd love for you to consider joining one of our cohorts. We do keep those small, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. It's an exciting, fun interaction on Zoom. It lasts 6 weeks, and I'd love for you to, if you're interested in helping people, to be a part of one of those cohorts. Also, thank you to my patrons. I really appreciate your support for my channel. It's awesome knowing there's people behind me that are benefiting from the content, and I just want to thank you. All right, so let's talk about 7s, 8s, and 9s. And we're looking at the old faithful standard here, The Wisdom of the Enneagram by Riso and Hudson. This is one of the first books that I read when I started learning about the Enneagram, and literally I tore it up. I mean, so you can see like every page, underlined, highlighted, and I really benefited from this book early on, and it really challenged my thinking and helped me understand more about the people that are in my life. All right, so let's talk about, and we're just looking at the beginning of it, the introduction, where he talks about each type, and I'm just kind of reading them off and evaluating what he's saying, and seeing what it sparks my mind to think about. I've been blessed to have 30 years now in ministry working with people, and now understanding, before I understood the Enneagram, and I never say I'm an expert in it. I believe I'm a student of it. I don't know that I'll ever be, or any of us will ever be, experts, but I think we should all be students of personality and students of understanding people and trying to understand people and better relate to them and be healthier ourselves. And this has been a very helpful book in that journey. So let's look at the introduction here. The enthusiast. Okay, so I am a 7, 7 wing 6, social 7, and so I feel like I can talk about this type. And I've had a lot of appointments with other 7s, and I've had the opportunity to observe a lot of 7s and talk to a lot of 7s. Being a 7 myself, as an insider, I understand the way this process works. And now, now that I understand the Enneagram better, I can observe my 7-ness, its pros, its cons, its weaknesses. And everybody thinks, oh, wouldn't it be great to be a 7? They're such fun people. They have so much fun. Okay, yeah, I'm happy being a 7, and I don't know what I'd rather be, so I'm good with it. But, like every personality type, there's certainly a dark side to every personality type. But let's see what the book says about the 7. The busy, productive type. Okay, I like busy. I don't know that 7s are always productive. 7s, it's the tendency of a 7 to be over-focused on one thing at a time. I know that 7s look like they're kind of scattered, right? If you're around a 7, it's like they've got their hand in everything. But the tendency for 7s is they get excited about something or enthusiastic about something. And it can be anything. It literally can be anything. It can be their work, at least for a time. It can be their work. It can be some hobby that they are interested in. It can be some activity like mountain biking or kayaking or four-wheelers. It could be anything. It could be a topic. It could be the Enneagram. Okay, it could be marriage and family information and books and seminars and conferences. It could be anything. And when a 7 is inspired, and that's what 7s often do, they get inspired and they tend to inspire others. When 7s, in fact, I'm going to write that down because I want to put that in my notes later. I'm taking notes on myself. Okay. Okay. When 7s are inspired in some topic, some interest, it can consume them. It can be all they think about. They're watching videos on it. They're ordering magazines about it. They're going to the store to look at it, to purchase it, to put it on layaway. And it's like everything in them wants to be consumed by whatever their interest is at the time. And they will go to 5 and be completely focused, even when it's not appropriate to be that focused. It's not uncommon. Remember, 7s, their superpower is teleportation, right? And so they might go up to a family reunion and they're supposed to be at the family reunion, and they might just sneak away and drive off for an hour or two and just disappear. Where are they? Oh, since they're in another city, they need to find the guitar store in that other city because, they've gone to their guitar store 15 times and they're looking at every guitar and, researching and studying and about to purchase one, but now they're in a different city. And so I need to sneak away from this family reunion and check out this guitar store and see what they have here at this store that they don't have at my store back home. And it may not really be appropriate, some might say it might not be appropriate to leave your family reunion to go off and look for, but it's like everything within the 7 is so focused on whatever their interest is at the time that they feel compelled and impulsed away from what they're doing or what they might need to be doing. 7 has a line to 1, do what needs to be done. They move away from that toward what they're interested in at the time. And everything in them wants to be over-focused or a little OCD, obsessive compulsive, on whatever it is they're focused on in that moment. And it changes. When a 7 feels like they know enough about something that they feel like they've pretty well understood it, they might get bored with whatever it is they're focused on and move on to something else. 7s and 1s could both look a little OCD, but 1s it's going to be like, I want all the cabinets straight. I want all the books lined up. I want the floor perfect, polished, clean. 7s are not necessarily going to be like that, but it's going to be whatever they're interested in right now. Everything within them wants to focus on that. That's all they want to talk about. They basically are selling whatever they're interested in all the time. And I think 7s could make good sales people if they remain passionate about whatever it is they're selling. And that could be a challenge. So busy, yes. Productive, sometimes. Sometimes very productive if it's something that they're interested in and something that they're focused on. The problem is let's say I was focused on mountain bikes, and I'm not, but let's say I was focused on mountain bikes. It's the tendency of a 7 to go in their office when they should be working on other things and spend all of their time learning about researching on the computer, watching videos, looking at catalogs, everything about mountain bikes, because that's what they're into right now. You ask a 7, hey, what are you into right now? Be prepared to learn something. Be prepared to get excited about something. 7s are enthusiastic and they tend to share. Now, what happens if there's nothing that they're interested in? Well, you'll see a 7 look very depressed. 7s could look a little bipolar because they're manic and excited and passionate and about whatever it is they're excited about. But what if they're in between interests, or what if there's nothing to really be focused on, or they feel hindered, like they can't focus their attention on something, like it's inappropriate, they'll get in trouble if they spend money or time away from what needs to be done. You'll see a 7 collapse because they feel restricted. They feel like their freedom to just pursue their interest is restricted. And you might see a 7 get depressed. Think Ariel, Under the Sea. She's surrounded by this great collection of stuff. All of it's very interesting, right? But she's not interested in what's available to her. She's interested in the world outside of what's available to her. And that's 7's focus of attention is going to be on what is not available to them, or what is on the other side of the fence, or something they might be missing out on. Remember, the sin of 7 is gluttony. And so I need this new mountain bike. I need this new experience. I need to raise the level of what we're doing now to something greater. And you can see what 7s are chasing, right? They're chasing after their interests. They're chasing after whatever they're passionate about. But what we don't often think about is what are 7s running away from. That feeling of being stuck, that feeling of boredom, that feeling of being limited or not satisfied. And obviously, it can be very helpful for a 7 to sit in a chair and to just, 20, 30 minutes, focus on nothing, do nothing, have no music, have no magazines, no phone, and just sit there for a moment and allow yourself to feel the boredom, allow yourself to feel the being stuck, and realize that there's a certain blessedness in not pursuing anything, in having that sort of rest of mind, because 7s can be quite restless. And so disciplining yourself to sit still, which 7s always have a hard time with sitting still. I mean, we're the people that tap our feet and move back and forth and have to click our pens when we're talking. There's a real peace that can be found in just sitting still. I mean, in a sense, sitting still is the easiest thing to do in the world. It takes no energy. Yet for a 7, it takes a lot of energy to sit still. 7s also are the people everybody wants to be around. Everybody wants to be around a 7. Okay, well then let me just ask you, 7, why do you have such a hard time just being around yourself? Just being around yourself, sitting still. And when you can sit still for 30 minutes and realize that your head doesn't explode and your eyes don't melt out of your head, then maybe you can realize, I'm really okay with not revving my mind on something. I'm really okay with not going to the guitar store or going to the mountain bike store or looking up more information about whatever it is I'm interested in. I'm actually okay just sitting here, just waiting, just being at peace. And I don't necessarily need to be as restless as I might be compelled to be. Okay, so busy and productive, again, can be quite productive when they're focused on what it is they're doing. But when their focus is shifted away from what it is they're doing, 7 could really struggle with being productive. Okay, 7s are versatile. I mean, we can go with the flow. We can go with whatever is, needs to be done right now. Versatile. Optimistic, yes. We want to see the best. We want to see the opportunities. We want to see what could be. We tend to be positive, and we tend to move away from things that are negative. Negative things, negative feelings, negative. They're not really negative, right? I mean, they are feelings. They are labeled as negative for some reason. They're labeled as unpleasant or negative. But it's like everything else. What one food is pleasant to one person, or one flavor or one spice is pleasant to one person, is unpleasant to another. And so I think 7s could learn a little bit from 4s in this, that, and some other types I'm sure, but I think of 4s in particular, who kind of, let me just say it like as a joke or a tongue-in-cheek, a 4, they might not run away from what a 7 would run away from. A 7 might think, oh, being at home and thinking about, my father passing away and sadness. No, I don't want to lean into that. I want to lean away from that. I'm going to go see a movie. I'm going to go call a friend. I'm going to go, to the beach and go for a walk or something. Anything other than to sit there and, cry into a pillow, that just seems really unpleasant. I don't want to choose to do that. And I think 4s, for example, might say there's a pleasantness, there's a richness that can be had in experiencing the full spectrum of emotions. 7s could learn a lot from that. And again, I think if a 7 could allow themselves to dial up all their emotions, then maybe they wouldn't have to work so hard to try to attain the happy emotions. You know, 7s can really work very diligently and work very hard to try to feel the happy feelings, to feel the joyful feelings. And it's kind of like all of our emotions have been dialed down, and so we've got to work really hard to try to gain that happy feeling. And we'll do some pretty crazy stuff, you know, to be happy ourselves and to make others happy. But if we could lean into all of our emotions and allow ourselves to be okay with some of the negative emotions, maybe we wouldn't have to work so hard to chase after the happy stuff if we just felt everything a little more. Okay, so optimistic, spontaneous, yes, like otters, right? Spontaneous. You say to a 7, hey, where do you want to go eat? You know, and a 7's like, oh, dude, we could go to that new taco place. Oh, no, wait, better yet, let's go to, see, this could be better. The one down the street that we usually go to is fine, but I know this other one that's really great. We should try it. It's spontaneous. Let's do this thing that I just thought of. You know, it's who I am now. It's my new dream, you know, that let's do that. Playful, high-spirited, and practical. Okay, and even the way like I do videos on the Enneagram, you know, I focus on, without trying, I can't help but focus on the practical aspects. You know, you won't find on this channel, let's get dusty and crusty and musty, and let's get ethereal, and let's talk about, you know, all of the deep origins and the theory of all of this. I can't help but want to focus on, well, how does this make us better? I mean, how does this really help us? How does this help us relate to others? How does this help us, you know, not be such a goofball? How does this help us, you know, be healthier people and more balanced people? So 7s tend to be very practical minded, upbeat, positive, and that all sounds great. I mean, who doesn't want to be around that? Who doesn't want to be more like that? But, you know, taken to an extreme, I think 7s, we could probably be annoying. We could probably come across a little bit grating or annoying to some people at some times. You know, people that want their space, people that want, for example, that want everything planned out and organized, and they believe in, you know, boundaries and space and everybody keeping their boundaries. 7s could just kind of step over all of those boundaries and maybe say things that they think are funny that aren't necessarily appropriate, and maybe go with the flow so much that maybe they could frustrate people that want everything pinned down on a schedule. And you know, why are you in my office? Because we don't have a time scheduled to chit chat, and you're just kind of social butterfly moving around chit chatting with everybody, and you're wasting time. I remember when I was, one of my first jobs was as a dishwasher in a pretty large bakery. Everybody needs, you know, those kinds of jobs at some point in their life, those terrible jobs that, you know, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Those terrible jobs that make you appreciate a good job. Everybody needs those kind of jobs. And I remember being a dishwasher in a bakery. I think I'm a 7. I don't know I'm a 7, but I didn't know at the time, but I'm a 7. I'm 17 years old, 16 years old. I'm in a dishwasher by myself in this large bakery. You know, there's lots of people out there. They're all quietly, you know, making cakes and muffins and biscuits and all these things that they make, you know. And I'm in the dish room away from everybody, washing dishes for 8 hours a day. Not a good job for a 7, you know. And I would come out of the dish room and I would walk around and talk to people. And I just couldn't stand being stuck in that dish room for 8 hours at a time, you know. So I'd go out and I'd walk around, I'd talk to people, and what are you guys doing? And oh, that's really cool. I mean, and so I was learning stuff and I was having conversations. And at one point I remember my manager, who was probably like an 8 or a 1, or, you know, just looking at me saying, your butt comes out of that dish room one more time, your job is over, you're fired. The funny thing is he was kind of a jerk and everybody knew it. I'm not saying because he was an 8 or a 1. I'm not saying because of that. He was a jerk. He got fired the next day. And so we got a new manager. And then I remember doing something that I've read about sevens do, is sevens have sort of a soft rebellion. In other words, we don't want to be directly rebellious, because we know that if I push my manager too far, he has the ability to make me work on Saturdays, and I don't want to be hindered, my freedom hindered. So I'm going to be kind and friendly and outgoing. I'm going to make friends with the manager, the new manager, so that he won't schedule me, to be stuck in the dish room. And so when the new manager was hired, I made an effort to befriend the new manager, and it wasn't long before I was out of the dish room and making cupcakes. Now, making cupcakes was a lot better. Okay, it was a lot better than working in the dish room, because at least I was out there on the floor and I could talk to people while I was making cupcakes. So I just tell that story to illustrate that sevens have a hard time being stuck, and they have a hard time being alone sometimes. They may have a hard time, limited options, limited freedom, and that's going to feel painful to most sevens. Okay, sevens can be overextended. Yes, overextended, because we want to do it all. And sometimes we can have a hard time actually agreeing to one option. Like putting it down on the calendar can feel difficult for sevens, because if I commit to this, going to this party or going to this event, then that means I don't have freedom. And I'm spontaneous. I know I'm spontaneous. And what if something better comes along? Or what if I don't feel like it at the moment? And that I'd be trapped at this event. I would be trapped at this party. I would be trapped. And so sevens can have a hard time committing to things. I think when sevens finally do commit, they can be very committed people, because they realize they've had to tell themselves, to remain committed to something. And that is not easy for a seven to do. And so when they do it, it must be something that's very important to them. So you might feel like, oh, I'm with a seven and they're just so fly by night and they're not committed. If they're still with you, realize that for them, that's like they're making a decision all the time to remain committed, to do the right thing, to be faithful, to not give up. Because in the mind of a seven, it's kind of like, why am I still at this job? I could be anywhere. Why am I not on the streets of Paris right now? Why am I not walking around a tourist in Rome? Why am I not on the beaches of California? Why am I not walking through New York City? I'm making a decision to be here, and I'm limiting my choices when I could be everywhere. And so when sevens finally do commit, that really is a commitment, because sevens kind of want to just move and go with the flow, whatever seems right at the time. They can be overextended, scattered, and undisciplined. And like I said, we can seem very undisciplined to people that, want everything tied down and buttoned up. They constantly seek new and exciting experiences. That's true. On the other hand, though, I don't know if it's because I'm a counter seven or maybe I just limit myself, but, I tend to go to the same restaurants and order the same meals. I wear the same shirts. Why? This says you like new and exciting. And I do love new and exciting. Like when I think about going on a vacation or going away for the weekend, I want to go somewhere new and I want to learn. I want to go somewhere historical and learn something and do some new things that I've never done before. But when I go to a restaurant, it's like I look at the menu and I think, I want to try it all. I really do want to try it all. How do I know what is the best thing on the menu? And you wouldn't unless you try it all. And I'm not really looking for the best things in life, but I just want to know what all the options are. And even as a child, I remember looking, my aunt taking me to a candy store or the section, like a Walgreens and that whole candy area. And she's saying, pick something out. Now, that seems like a rather simple task. Go pick out, candy. I just remember being overwhelmed as, a 5-year-old, overwhelmed with how could I possibly pick something out? How can I possibly know what I want? I mean, there's so many options and I haven't tried any of them. I've tried like 3 of them. So how could I possibly I need to try them all. I need to try them all in order to know which one I want. And that's the way a 7 would think, you know. So when I go into a restaurant, I just kind of realize I don't want to be the person that tries everything on the menu. I don't want to go through all of what it would take to find out what the best thing is. So I'm just going to order the same thing. It's kind of like the 7 going to 1, you know, just kind of like I'm going to give up and I'm just going to, because nobody wants to sit there and wait for me to order, you know, and then I might end up with something I don't like. And so just order the same thing every time. And maybe it's because I'm a counter 7, I don't know. But it just seems overwhelming, like how, because I really would want to try everything on the menu, and then I'd want to go to every other restaurant, you know, and try everything on those menus, and then be able to compare and say, of all the Mexican restaurants, you know, this is my favorite one, and these 3 dishes are my favorite, but over at this one, these 2 dishes are my favorite. And it's like, do I really, at the end of the day, want to go through all of that trouble? I'll just order the same thing, which, by the way, is always enchiladas verdes chicken. It's my favorite. All right, so undisciplined. They constantly seek new and exciting experiences. Now, again, that sounds like a great thing. Who doesn't want to go, let's go do something new, let's go do something exciting, okay? But realize that this could be a source of contention for the people that you're in relationship with. They might at times feel like you're unsatisfied. Remember, 7s, what are they looking for? Satisfaction. Mick Jagger is probably a 7, okay? Can't get no satisfaction. 7s are gluttons, and gluttons have an empty gut, right? That's never full. There's always more, and always more is needed. Well, you can see where this could be a problem in a relationship, because the other person might start to think that, well, I guess I'm not enough for you, because you don't ever really seem satisfied. Okay, not feeling satisfied is something within the 7. It may not have anything to do with the content or the connection in the relationship. But a 7 might look unsatisfied, like they're wanting something new, like they're bored at home, or they're bored in what we're doing now. They want to get away from what we're doing now. The other people that live with that 7 might start to get the feeling that, well, I guess they're not satisfied with me. I guess they're not satisfied in this relationship. And just realize that it may not have anything to do with you or anything to do with the relationship. It's just the compulsion of the 7 to feel like, you know, I need something more. And you may not realize like why other people might get hurt around you as a 7, but they may feel like they're being abandoned at times. Like they're not enough and they're being abandoned, and you know they're left at the family reunion and you're off at the guitar store, okay? Constantly seek new and exciting, but they can become distracted, okay? Distracted by what? Well, whatever's new, whatever's interesting, or whatever they're obsessed about at the time. And so they're supposed to be, you know, out with the family on a picnic, but what are they thinking about? Mountain bikes. And they may realize that talking about mountain bikes all the time is frustrating the people around them. So they may not talk about mountain bikes because they don't want to frustrate the people in their family or that they're relating to. So they may just get quiet. Because do you want me to talk about mountain bikes 24 hours a day? Because I can. I'm an enthusiast. I could be excited about it and I could talk about it. And that's all I want to think about. And it's all I want to talk about. And I can't help but just be compelled to be over-focused on this thing. And the people around you might think, I don't want to hear about mountain bikes anymore. Okay, well then I'll just keep it all inside. And then they could feel like you're not connecting with them, or you're not open with them, that you're being closed, or you're distracted. You're distracted, like you're not really there. And that's part of my tagline in my videos is being present to life. Is it's easy for a 7 to be distracted away from what they're doing because their mind and their energy is over-focused on what they're not doing, on what they don't have. And so they might miss the experiences that are right in front of them. They might miss the experiences and the people that are trying to connect with them. Okay, distracted, exhausted by staying on the go. They typically have problems with superficiality and impulsiveness. Superficiality. Sevens like to keep things positive. They like to keep things upbeat. They like to keep things moving. They like to keep things, easy. Sevens and nines have that in common, I think. We like to keep things easy and simple, and I think sevens and nines could get along pretty good. We could drive across the country and see a lot of great things and do a lot of fun stuff. Nines would probably go with us, right? So that is a good thing, to keep things light and positive and upbeat. But what about when things aren't light and positive and upbeat? What about when somebody you're close to is suffering? Okay, suffering. One of the ways that you can serve someone who is suffering is by entering into that suffering with them. Now that could be hard for a seven, because they might feel like, if I enter into that suffering, I might never get out. I don't want to go there. But one of the ways that you show love to people is by being with them, and not by just always pulling them out of, get well soon. Get well soon. In other words, I don't want to be around sick people. Get well soon. But why don't I ever send a card, that just says, hey, I know you're sick and I'm sorry and I love you and I'm just going to sit here with you and be with you and help you. It's going to be hard for sevens maybe to move in that direction. We tend to move in the get well soon, hey, let me know when you feel better. Until then. And that can feel very superficial, like the relationship is superficial and impulsive. And I think we could look very impulsive. I think all of us are impulsive. Every type moves in their impulses, right? But sevens look like the classical definition, what people think of as impulsive, like I'm supposed to be here, but I can go on. Moving away from what I'm doing to what I'm not doing yet. At their best, healthy sevens focus their talents on worthwhile goals, becoming joyous. Worthwhile goals. That's, I think, a lot of us going to one before we end up there, saying, what needs to be done? What am I really supposed to be doing right now? Why don't I focus my attention? Now that feels difficult. So the one is kind of telling you, what should you be doing right now? And the five is saying, focus your attention on what? One, doing what needs to be done right now. But I want to talk about mountain bikes. But we're not talking about mountain bikes right now. That would not be focused. That would look scattered. That would look like you're, not present to what needs to be done. Part of the problem too is sevens are assertive types, and we don't mind messing up. We don't mind if we get a pie in the face, and we tend to think that we're going to land on our feet. It's going to be great. We're going to land on our feet. We'll be able to schmooze people with our friendliness, like I did with my manager, right? I'll be able to schmooze an audience, and so I've got to do a presentation on Friday. I'll put it off, because what? I'm focused on mountain bikes, and I don't want to focus on my presentation, and I tend to know, it's probably going to be all right. I'll be able to win people over with my friendliness and my charm, and I'll land on my feet. And even if I don't, I'll reframe it into it was fine. And so all of that could work together to keep the seven from maybe being as productive as they could be. If they could focus their attention and, maybe hear a little of the six. Oh, this could end up bad. Ooh, I could get in trouble. Ooh, hear a little bit of that voice. That might help a seven, be a little more productive. Superficiality and pull at their best, sevens. Okay, worthwhile goals. Becoming joyous. Joy. I've done a lot of study on happiness and joy. In fact, I've got a series of videos that I'm going to make available here soon on YouTube. So watch for them, all on happiness. And happiness, is what sevens are chasing after. Satisfaction, happiness. Happiness and joy are so different and yet so similar. Joy is a little bit more like a decision than happiness. Happiness is a result of I got what I wanted, I'm doing what I wanted, so I'm happy. Joy is like I'm not necessarily doing what I want or getting what I want, and yet I'm deciding to go ahead and move into that happy space. Joy is really the challenge for sevens, because when sevens are joyous, they can bring happiness everywhere they go, But 7s sometimes aren't very joyous. They tend to think, I'll be joyous if I got what I wanted. If I could just go to the bike store and buy another bike, then I'd be happy. But that tends to wear off, and the focus of our attention tends to go on what we don't have and what we're not doing. So those things that make us happy are always just temporary, but joy is something that we can have at any time. And when 7s can figure that out and be joyful people, what do? They inspire joy and happiness everywhere they go. And that's, I think, why 7s are on earth, is to reflect the joy of God in this world. So joyous, highly accomplished, and full of gratitude. Gratitude, that's a hard one. Again, think The Little Mermaid. She's in a cavern filled with stuff. Is she grateful for it? No. She's not grateful for what she has. She's ambivalent toward what she has, and the focus of her attention is on what she doesn't have. So she's not grateful. Grateful is a choice. Grateful is looking around at what we have and saying, I don't need anything else. What I have is sufficient. What I have is good, and I'm grateful for it. That sometimes less really is more. One good book is better than a shelf full of books that I don't really care about. All right, so let's move on to type 8. I can already tell we're not going to get to 9. Poor 9s are just going to have to wait. Well, if anybody has to wait, it's probably best that it's a 9, because they tend to know that, of course, I'm going to have to wait. What's new, right? So let's move on to type 8, the challenger. The challenger, type 8. All right, so let's see what he says. A powerful, yes. Remember, the superpower of the 8 is superpower, right? What's the superpower of the 7? Teleportation, I guess, because that's, yeah. Okay, superpower of the 5 is invisibility. I'll have to go back and remember what those are, because I don't necessarily remember them. All right, the superpower, I always think of the 9 as a superpower as being able to see other people's perspectives, but maybe there's probably a meme floating around that has all those on it. The powerful, this is the 8, the powerful, they want to feel powerful, okay? They don't want to feel vulnerable. This is very interesting. They want to feel their power. They don't want to feel like they could be taken advantage of. So anything that feels like vulnerability, like weakness, indecision, helplessness, like they're not in control of things, they tend to like ball that up and then throw it away from themselves, which is ironic, because that's exactly now keep in mind, right? So the focus of their attention is on vulnerabilities, even though they don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to see their own vulnerabilities. So where is the focus of their attention? On vulnerabilities. It's kind of like if I said, all right, there's going to be like, I'm going to take 5 or 6 little red dots and I'm going to put them on the ground. And the person comes in and I said, now, you want the floor to be completely clear of red dots. Where does their attention go? It goes to all the little red dots. That's where their attention is going to go. And so they pick them all up and they put them away from themselves. They go in the next room. What are they going to see? All the little red dots, because that's what they don't want to exist in their room. They don't want there to be any red dots on their floor. So when they come into the room, your room, what are they going to see? They're going to see the things that make you vulnerable. Now that gives them an advantage when they decide to go on the attack, right? Because they know exactly what you're vulnerable about. In other words, they know where your weaknesses are. That's where their eye goes. Their eye goes to protect their own weaknesses, so it points out yours. Now, that sounds like a terrible thing, right? Ooh, that sounds terrible. Okay, well, it also works in a positive way. So what if there's somebody whose whole floor is red dots? I mean, somebody who literally just is helpless. This person cannot change their own life, right? So a person who is helpless, like think a disabled person or disadvantaged person, an elderly person or an infant, okay? The 8 will see that and they're actually drawn to the vulnerable. They're drawn to true vulnerability, and they will coddle it, and they will cuddle it, and they will admire it, and they will appreciate it, and they will protect it. They're drawn to the vulnerable. The very thing that they don't like to acknowledge in themselves is what they're drawn to defend the helpless. That's such a beautiful, interesting thing that's worth really appreciating. That if the 8 has something that truly is vulnerable, they will defend. Like, for example, let's say the 8 has a little child, a little toddler, and they turn on a television show for that child, and something brutal happens on the show. Some character in the show says a curse word or pokes somebody in the eye or says something mean, shut up or whatever. The 8 is probably going to be inclined, although they themselves might be inclined to do those behaviors, they're going to turn that off to protect the innocence of their child. No, in our house, we're only watching Little Bear. In our house, we're only watching, PBS Kids. We're not watching, Ren and Stimpy or Beavis and Butthead or even, Bart Simpson. We're not watching any of that stuff. We're not watching TV at all. They might go to extremes. It's not unlike 8s to go to extremes, right? And be intense about it. But it's like the thinking is, I have this little precious vulnerable child that is being molded and shaped. I'm not going to expose them to that garbage. They're going to watch, these shows about kindness and love and friendliness and sweetness and all these things that an 8, they themselves might struggle with, is what they want to protect in this innocent person. And it's rather interesting, how that works. So the powerful dominating type, again, they may not realize they're dominating because they're just being alive. They're just being a person. But 8s tend to step in and just take over things. If they can't be in charge of it or be in control of it, then they're not sure they want to be a part of it. Even though they're called the leaders, the 8 is called one of the 8s is called the team leader, but the 8s tend to be like the leaders or the challengers. 8s don't really want to have to be responsible for people. They don't want to have to, wipe noses and hold hands and that kind of stuff. They want to empower you to be a person yourself, And 8s kind of just come in and they just sort of take over. Again, their eye goes to who's vulnerable and what their vulnerabilities are. Well, flip that around. Their eye goes to who's in power. Who's really in charge? Who's really the authority? Is this person really a good authority? Are they competent or are they incompetent? If they're incompetent, the 8 feels compelled to call that out with truth and challenger, right? And challenge incompetent authority. Okay? So dominating type. 8s are self-confident. Okay, strong and assertive. Why? Well, they've taken everything that feels vulnerable and they put that away from themselves, and they're not going to focus their attention on, I might mess up. What do you think people will think? They're not going to think about those things. They're going to think something needs to be done. Let's take action. Let's move forward. Some action is better than nothing. And action is a lot better than sitting around planning some meeting and finding out what everybody's opinion is. I don't care if everybody's on board. We got to take action. We got to move forward. And we appreciate that about 8s because they often are willing to step forward when everybody else is hem-hawing, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Let's get everybody on board. The 8's already moving and they have confidence in themselves, and so other people tend to line up behind that and say, well, they're moving first and they look like they know what they're doing. And what happens when that doesn't work out? What happens when the 8 has overextended themselves or they've overreached or they've overstepped, a boundary? That's when the 8, you might see them moving to the 5 in disintegration and oh crap, now I've got to figure out what I'm doing. The 8 might just be impulse to move, to take action before they've really thought things through. And when whatever it is their action they're taking doesn't really work out to help or solve the situation or solve the problem, that's when you might see the 8 now withdrawing away, getting away, pulling away, and trying to research, why didn't that work, and what do I need to do now? You'll also see an 8 go to 5, like investigating, interrogating you, or just withdrawing and just saying, I'm done, I want out of here. I'm overwhelmed. They won't say I'm overwhelmed, but that's what it is. They're overwhelmed and they want out. They don't want to talk anymore. They're so angry, they're so frustrated, or they're so irritated, or this is so ridiculous, I'm done. And they'll just move away. Like a 5, withdraw, right? 5s want to be behind their boundary, and they want to see life from back here. And when an 8, who is right up front and center, is upset and frustrated, what we might see them do? Move behind, move away from the group, move away from and behind us in a safe place. Protective, resourceful, and decisive. Again, what's the opposite of that, right? Indecisive. Indecisive is me. When I was a little kid and I'm looking at all the candy. You might say, what, do you need your mommy to pick out a candy bar for you? Do you need some help, little boy? 8s, they don't want to be indecisive. Indecisive feels like helpless. So they're going to be decisive. Will they make the right decision? Not always. And that's why I said that sometimes you might see them when their decision is not the right decision and it makes things worse, you might see them now going to 5 and doing research, on what is the right decision. They can become proud and domineering. 8s feel they must control their environment. They could learn a little something from 9s. You can't always control your environment. And sometimes you have to submit or surrender. Ooh, painful words for an 8. To submit or to surrender to your environment. A lot of problems that 8s are going to have are going to be the stuff in life that they can't control. Because they want to control things. They don't want to be anybody's victim, and they don't want to be life's victim, right? But most of us realize that you can't always control everything in your environment. There's a lot of things in life you can't control. I can't control how tall I am. I can't control how well my hair grows. I can't control maybe my kids' attitudes. I can't always control, the way my wife responds to me. I can't control the economy. I can't control my own health. I can try to eat right, and I can try to exercise, and I can sleep and do all the things that you're supposed to do, but healthy people get sick. People that don't have any sign of disease suddenly find out they have leukemia. And much of life is not under our control. And an 8 is not going to want to necessarily acknowledge that always. It can be hard for them, especially an 8-wing 7 can have a hard time acknowledging that some things are out of their control. That's where the 9-wing could really help you if you can lean on it a little bit and say, you know what, maybe I just have to let go, which is what 9s want to do. Let go and let God, right? Okay, that can be very hard for 8s who want to control their environment. Often becoming confrontational and intimidating. And again, they may not even realize it about themselves that, when somebody comes out with a rule or a guideline that they don't understand or don't appreciate, you might see the 8 just move into that, like, what's going on? You can't get in that line? Why can't I get in that line? Look, this line goes all the way out to the door. There's only 3 people in this line. Why can't I get in that line? And they might just be trying to call out the truth. Like, what's the honest answer? I'm just trying to understand things here. But obviously, for the rest of us, that might feel like, wow, this person is upset. They're intimidating. They want their way. They're very demanding. And the 8 might not see how they're coming across. They may just be trying to understand, just to help me understand why this line goes out to the door and there's only 3 people in that line. What do you got to do to get in that line? Why do I have to go in this line back here? I'm a tax-paying citizen. And a lot of people just say, path of least resistance. I'll get in the long line, path of least resistance. But an 8 might think, well, what's so special about those people? And they're going to maybe confront that. Whatever they think is injustice, they're going to confront that and want to confront that. But maybe there are good reasons, like this line is for VIP members. They pay extra. They pay a monthly or a yearly fee to be in this shorter line. Or maybe this line is for people that don't have insurance, or this is the line for people that are vets, or maybe there's some good reason, but that's probably going to feel like a bunch of baloney to an 8. This is all made up garbage. One group gets this and the other group gets that. That's bull stink. Bull stink. The words preachers come up with, right? They typically have problems with allowing themselves to be close to others. Why? Because that's vulnerability. That's opening yourself up. 8s are like a fort, right? They got a fort, and they'll have people inside the fort, but even the people inside the fort, like, you better not betray me. But 8s tend to have that fortress mentality. And so, when new people come into your life, an 8 might be very friendly, especially an 8 wing 7 might be outgoing and friendly, have that sort of 7-ness about them. Under stress, lean on their 7. But by and large, 8s tend to be a little distant, like 5s, like sometimes 6s. 6s can be quite suspicious. I don't know that 8s are suspicious. It's just like, I'm not going to be your victim. And so, I don't need a relationship with you. Like 5s, I don't need a relationship with you. And 8s can be a little bit like that. So they might have a hard time allowing themselves to get close to others. That could be frustrating for the people that live with them. They might feel like, there are walls there that don't need to be there, or there's unforgiveness there that doesn't need to be there. So just realize that about yourself if you're an 8, that other people that relate to you who want to be close to you might feel like it's hard to be close to you because, it's hard to be close to Superman. It's hard to really know Superman. Do you remember when, in the old movie, when Superman decided to become a human, or whatever, he decided to become mortal. He decided to give up his powers, and next time he got in a fight, he got a bloody nose, right? It probably feels a little bit like that for an 8 when they decide to be in a relationship with someone, like that they're going to have to give up their superpowers in order to become vulnerable to really let this other person in. That could be a terrifying thought. I remember watching the movie, thinking, oh no, Superman's given up his powers for Lois Lane. What's going to happen to him? And of course he gets in a fight and gets beat up, and things don't go well for him. And so maybe every 8 sort of has that feeling like, if I were to become vulnerable with people and lay down my weapons and lay down my superpower, I could end up beat up. And of course we know how the movie ends. He goes back and reverses it and gets his superpowers back, and then confronts the people that beat him up and, takes care of business. TCB, baby, take care of business. All right, so people want to be close to you, but you may not realize that you tend to keep them on the outside of the fort. Okay? Even if sometimes, even if they think they're on the inside of the fort, the 8 knows, nah, you're on the outside of the fort. At their best, healthy 8s are self-mastering. They use their strength to improve their lives, becoming heroic, magnanimous. I need to look that word up. I think it means like, boisterous, like bigger than life is what I think. And sometimes historically great. Heroes. 8s tend to be heroes. Like when you watch the average action movie, the Bruce Willis, Denzel Washington, that kind of shows you that I'm from the past, right? But those guys tend to be 8s. They kind of have a scruffy face and they don't really obey all the rules, but they're going to take action and save the day. They're going to protect the innocent. The innocent villagers are about to be consumed by this evil force out there, and the 8 who's scruffy and rough and does things their own way, comes in and fights the bad guy and protects. That's very 8 stuff. And when 8s are healthy, they're going to share their power with you. You're going to feel more powerful. When they're not healthy, you're going to feel less powerful. They're going to seem very powerful. Everybody needs to know how in charge and how powerful they are when they're not doing well. In other words, they need to feel their own power. They're feeling stressed. They're feeling what other types might say insecure. And so they're going to overwhelm everyone with their big powerfulness, right? But when an 8 is secure in their power, they don't need to dominate life. They show up and are present, and what do? They empower others. They empower others. A healthy 8 empowers others. A healthy 7 brings joy to others rather than, what can you do to make me happy, right? A healthy 7 brings joy. A healthy 8 brings power, and they empower others. And they say things to you like, Lorraine, I don't think you should take that. I think you deserve, to be compensated better. You need to go in there and you need to tell that boss that, you're valuable to that company, and so they extend that power, and it rubs off. It rubs off on you, and now you say, you know what? You're right. I don't need to take this crap. I should go in there and I should tell them, that they deserve. I deserve better than this. You're right. 8s will empower you. They'll make you feel like you can be a hero. You could change the world. You could do things. That's a beautiful thing. I mean, there's a lot of powerless people out there, right? And if 8s could come in, not only just protect them, but empower them, that they can make a difference in their life, that they could live great lives. They could be heroes. They could do something important. A lot of people don't think they can. And maybe if an 8 believed in them, and sort of picked them up, brushed them off, and come on, get back in the fight. Get in there, and, that could be a very blessed thing to do in this world, where most of us, just feel like we get tossed around by the world. We don't feel like we're in control, or we can take control of our own lives. It might be helpful to have an 8 in your corner saying, yeah, you can. You can make changes. You have every right. You have every right to show up fully to life, and you don't have to be a dentist. If you don't want to be a dentist, just tell mom, I don't want to be a dentist. It's your life. And you don't have to make excuses. You don't have to give reasons to everybody what you do. It's your life, and you have the right to live your life. You can make whatever choices you want to make. Keep in mind, you can make whatever choices you want to make, but you can't always choose the consequences. Sometimes the consequences are quite predictable, right? All right, so I hope that's helpful for you 7s and 8s. And if you stayed with me this long in this video, then thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I'm going to post this video as Introduction to Type 7 and 8, and then we'll just have to do the 9 when we get to the 9. I love 9s, and I'm excited about that video, and I'm looking forward to that one too. All right, thank you guys. I appreciate, and as always, be present to life. See you next time.